Currently, companies are already having to deal with disruption affecting both their costs and their revenues due to COVID-19. And most companies are hoping that with the economy reopening, they can at least achieve the levels of business they were doing prior to the pandemic. The authorities have already highlighted that it will likely be a K-shaped recovery, in that some industries, some companies may rise from ashes, and some will be blown away by the wind. In short, the recovery story is not going to be all hunky-dory when the reopening of economies gain traction. Seems tricky times ahead. What to make of it? Be in doing business or navigating the financial markets. Stay on to find out more. Firstly, let's consider the rising labor costs and substitution effect. Today, with the progressive wages, every cleaner earns at least $1,200. In 2 years' time, they will earn at least $1,500. And after another 2 more years, this will go up further to at least $1,900, said Mr. Lee. There has been disruption to supply chains brought about by the pandemic. Rising fuel prices resulting in higher freight and transport charges, rising electricity prices, and rising grain prices resulting in more expensive meat and food. Workers will need their wages to rise just to hold steady the current standard of living. With the authorities having laid the groundwork for cleaners, security guards, and administrative staff to get pay rises in the coming years, companies that are unable to raise their game and pass on the rising costs for their goods and services will fall victim. For some businesses, the solution to rising labor costs might lie in automation and going digital. Sounds like the message the authorities always preach, but there will always be instances where technology is just not the answer. If anyone wants to be an entrepreneur, I do wish them well, but it is increasingly more difficult to succeed. With the Zoom phenomenon and faster internet connection, geographical barriers that might have protected some jobs is no longer there anymore. Not sure what comes after Pioneer and Merdeka packages, but I'm pretty sure it will not stop there, because we will probably need one to get through the future. Secondly, considering the possibility of rising interest rates, be mindful in your personal expenditure. Not all consumers will be able to afford paying more. As you can see above, they too are already being hit by the shrinking disposable income due to rising living costs. Why would interest rates rise? Well, look around as inflation kicks in. With prices rising, central banks might be forced to raise rates to cool things off a little. Why do you want inflation to run hot? If you are serious about climate change investment, there are a lot of infrastructure that needs to be built globally, be it raising the land to prevent flooding or building a better tomorrow like green city solutions. With inflation, 100 billion borrowed today might have a lot less purchasing power in 10 or 20 years if inflation is high. If inflation is weak, then 100 billion borrowed today might still be worth close to 100 billion in 10 or 20 years, and that is not good. While I cannot say that this is what will come to pass, the plot slowly unfolding is looking a lot like that. In regards to energy, OPEC could easily raise oil upward, and so could the US, to bring oil prices down. But do you see any such action? Suppose as reopening gains traction and some normalization comes to shipping or freight rates, energy prices could ease. But then, there are some who want high inflation so that you can have higher interest rates. Thirdly, considering carbon tax, Singaporeans are a forgiving lot. Most of us may have already forgotten and forgiven the man behind the Yusof Ishak SG50 commemorative notes. But he has given some interesting IPS presentations outlining the road ahead. In one of the speeches, he mentions how Singapore's carbon tax pricing might be too low. The question is whether our corporates can afford to pay more. If you are driving a car, you are assumed to throw out a couple of tons of carbon a year. So at $5 per ton, you can imagine how much an office building, a mall, a factory might churn out, and how much more, then, they need to pay to offset their carbon footprint. The fourth point is about tax. Somewhere in the midst of the pandemic, discussions were concluded and a global deal was reached to ensure big companies pay a minimum tax rate of 15%. Tech companies, which used to run around trying to avoid paying tax, might soon find themselves paying tax. Perhaps one way around it would be to hire token employees, burn off their excess gains, and soak in some love from governments who are looking to create jobs for their citizens. And lastly, coming to GST. With the reopening slowly unfolding, corporates might have a few good quarters ahead. Some will report a rise in earnings, some might dole out more dividend, some might get more business, and the mood might be a bit more optimistic. If everyone is happy, along comes the spider. The authorities have said it loud and clear that GST is still on track, and next year is as good a year as any. Look to invest in companies that are moving with the climate change agenda. Look for companies that can pass on rising costs to their consumers. Stay away from highly leveraged companies unless they possess an agong with deep pockets to fund them or have a strong restructuring team. At the end of all this, hope that it's pointing you in the right direction. We have come to the end of this episode. This video is for your information only and is not meant to constitute financial advice. Please leave a comment, click on the subscribe button, or simply like this video. Fortis Fortuna Adiabat. Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. See you in the next video.